Charles, was that all about tyres for you today, and is that where the pace has gone in the Ferrari, and then how much can you change ahead of qualifying now in tomorrow's race?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I pushed like crazy at the beginning to try and put pressure on McLaren. I knew there was little to lose on a sprint race. I wanted to try and push on the tyre, but obviously it didn't work out, so it's okay. I'll learn from it, and tomorrow will be better. I think P3 was the best we could have done. We lost a point compared to the optimal of the car today, but it's the way it is. I mean, I wanted to try and pass Lando. It didn't work out.
How much of a surprise was that race to you, or was it what you expected in the end? And
hopefully we were 2-3 tenths off in quali, but we were expecting to be a bit closer in the race. Just did too many mistakes. The car was very difficult at the first few laps and lost too much time, and then by the time I figured it out, it was too late and we lost too much race time. No? So it's clear we are not at the level of McLaren so far, and we need to make steps if we want to be with them in quali and tomorrow. Thank you.
So you get a couple of parc fermes on sprint weekends, goes in at the start of the sprint qualifying, then comes out of it now and goes back into it for normal qualifying. So what Ferrari got to change, do you think, Bernie?
Well, the biggest concern that I heard from Leclerc in particular was the amount of lift and coast he needed to do. He was really struggling when he was trying to defend from Verstappen. So is that a cooling issue? Is it the management of the tyre? That's not clear from the radio comms. We're just talking about a lot of, lifting off into the corner, trying to cool the tyres down again. So that could be as simple as just changing the cooling spec of the car. It could be more complex because it could be how they're operating that tyre.
Yeah, I mean, well, either way, it's a worry because he fell away quite quickly from Max once Max got ahead of him.
Exactly, because once he got out that DRS train, he just was a sitting duck, basically. And Max actually proved to have more pace than he expected in the race today, but ultimately yesterday in qualifying, Charles was already complaining then that he was having issues on the softs to extract the maximum out of the car. So they're definitely going to have to make some changes because I think there were a lot of learnings from a lot of teams, and we might see a very different qualifying result.
David?
Yeah, I think I disagree with that. I mean, it's only really an issue when they're pushing very hard and they're in dirty air. So we've got a qualifying session. They'll have to qualify better.
And of course, the tyres are one step softer, aren't they, than last year? How's that going to affect into the race, do you think, tomorrow?
The race tomorrow, I think last year the race was very soft and medium compounds. This year we're expecting, like we've seen in the sprint race, to be very much medium and hard compounds. I noticed earlier that everyone basically has 2 sets of hards available. So hopefully on that hard tyre they can push a little bit more than they could on the medium in the sprint today, and a lot more flexibility obviously in their stop laps and how long they run that medium tyre.
Okay, a bit of head scratching then for Ferrari. Ollie Bearman, well, he started 10th, finished 14th. Not such a good day so far for him.
I know you lost a place at the start, but you fought hard to get it back. In the end, how satisfied are you with that, and how much have you learned going into the rest of this weekend now?
Yeah, I think the start was tough, and I got a bit stuck in the middle, which is always tough in this track, with the first corner the way it is. So that was a bit annoying, but I managed to make a few spots at the end, around lap 1, and get to a decent position. After that, we just kind of fell back and didn't quite have the pace of the cars up front.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
David, let's go back to the start of your career when you came in. Yes, you were a little bit older when you came into
Formula One.
You came in alongside alongside Alain Prost, but you must have. How much of a sponge were you when you came in for those first few races, trying to just learn every single second of the race weekend?
I mean, we had testing, so I got loads of laps in the car, so I was familiar with the car. That wasn't a problem. It was, as you say, all the other stuff that's going on, the press duties and just locate, trying to find everyone and getting to know everyone. So that's a big learning curve. But they're so well prepared now. They've got simulators as well. So when they come to the track, they virtually slot straight in. Having said, it's not easy to do that, and he's done a fine job. So I made some horrible mistakes in the early days, and I felt the pressure of that. So he's avoided those incidents so far, and it's good. So he's done a very good job. He's disappointed because he slipped backwards. Nobody likes going backwards in a race. No. I incorrectly predicted they could stay where they were, and they slipped. Just to prove me wrong, they couldn't keep the pace up. But tomorrow's another day. Tomorrow's another day. But just again on young drivers when they come in, very much reliant, aren't they, on the performance engineer and their race engineer to bring them up to speed as quickly as possible.
Yeah, there's a lot of reliance on the whole organisation around them, their support network. I actually went through Ollie Bearman's opening lap on the onboard. He didn't seem to make any dramatic mistakes, so to speak. It was good off the line. It was good through the first 3 turns. I think maybe just with the extra fuel load and the control of the car, it seemed very, very hard for him to control that car through the first lap, which is where he lost the positions just gradually through the lap. There wasn't one big mistake. All of that team around him, they'll look through the data from this race. Where can he improve? How does that improve for qualifying this afternoon? How can he improve it for the race tomorrow? And yeah, like you asked Damon, he'll just be a sponge, he'll absorb that. And we sort of, what's the biggest thing he needs to learn for the race? We can't just give him everything because we'll overload him.
The thing with these young drivers is, whilst we do call them young, they've been racing since they were very, very little. So the racing actually is the pedigree. That's what they know how to do. It's everything else that comes around it, whether that's managing the different tyre compounds, managing the schedule. I mean, from now until qualifying later, they'll have a full jam-packed schedule. And normally when you're a junior driver, you have a lot of time to look over your data and really focus just on the driving. So it's that part that's the adapting part when you get to F1, less so than the actual driving.
And some of the complex procedures on the steering wheels that they've got to get to the bottom as well.
Yeah, and you know, teams, what we used to do at one point, I think it was Hulkenberg actually stepped in for one of our drivers during COVID, and he gets to the track and you're like, what is the one thing we need him to do in this car? And that'll be things like the launch. You'll actually hold back, switch positions that you would maybe do in an ideal world, but you don't want to overload them. The risk of getting it wrong, you know, this is quite a quick lap. So getting any of those complex switch positions in is actually quite difficult around the lap, apart from the sort of final straight.
Okay, nearly another coming together between Sergio Perez and Liam Lawson. Lawson backed out, though, under braking. Did make a little move under braking, but backed out all the same. Let's hear from both of them.
Lee fought hard today and got the maximum out of that car, it looked like. What positives can you take into the rest of this weekend, personally, and actually for the team? That looks like that car's got some pace.
We've been strong with the whole weekend, really. I think it was mainly qualifying where conditions and run program that really put us in the back foot. But we've been strong, so I see no reason why we cannot be even stronger for Sunday. I think in qualifying we will have the pace later on, and it should be a good one.
Front row pace?
I don't know the McLarens, but I think definitely we are in the mix.
Fought hard during that, and towards the end of the race as well, trying to keep Checo behind, but ultimately you've just missed out on that last point today.
I think, yeah, I knew we didn't really... To overtake somebody on pure pace is quite tricky, so to be honest, I tried to let him go, but he made a few mistakes, and then obviously didn't quite get to Pierre, so we didn't really have the speed to keep a Red Bull behind today, but I think we had the speed for Alpine. It's just to overtake somebody on pure pace is quite tricky.
Lawson said about Perez, this is over team radio, oh my God, mate, he just locks up. And then post-race says, I don't even have the words for what I saw in reference to Perez's driving. No love lost between the pair of them, is there, at the moment? Liam Lawson has come in, all guns blazing to Formula One.
Spicy, very spicy stuff going on out there. They seem to keep finding each other on track, which is also bizarre. I mean, Checo should really just be qualifying where he needs to be, and then he won't even be around Liam Lawson in that RB. But yeah, I mean, it's all a bit of a game, isn't it? Liam wants that seat at Red Bull. He's got to highlight Checo's faults, his weaknesses. I guess it's about how you do that, because it is still your sister team. It's still, you know, somewhat of a extended teammate. But yeah, there's no love lost. Absolutely not.
What do you think? What do you think about the way he's coming and what he's doing?
Well, I've heard it said that nice guys don't win, but
well, you did.
I like to think that's not true. But you know, he definitely, you're right. He's come in and picked a fight with Checo. Wonder why? You know, why Checo in particular? I mean, he wants to make. He wants to be heard, and he wants everyone to know, I am not going to become a little kind of nice kid who's going to turn up and let people go through and try and keep your nose clean and do a good job. He wants to show he's a racer.
And there are a few rumours in the paddock. They are just rumours that potentially he might get that seat in the Red Bull next year, and potentially they might move someone, you know, into the RB team alongside Yuki Tsunoda. I mean, they are just rumours at the moment, but what do you think of it? I mean, is he in prime position at the moment with the way that Sergio's been driving?
Yeah, he's looking like, I was just actually going to ask Damon there when he was chatting, is, you know, from a driver in that position in the car, is that just raw emotion, those conversations that we're hearing, or do you think he has the presence of mind to be thinking, I need to be explicitly mentioning Checo?
I think it's a little bit conscious that he's doing these things. It sounds a little bit, you know, noticeable that he's making these comments at the right time. I mean, I don't think Checo did anything particularly wrong in that overtake. I think it was brilliant, actually. And also, Liam did the right thing. He tried to close in, and realised it's not going to work. I'm going to have to duck out of it. Great racing. good example of it.
It'd be fun to see him try against Max Verstappen, wouldn't it? If he did get in that seat alongside him, I wonder how that one would end up. We'll see, won't we? We'll take a short break on the end.
Lando, congratulations. Another sprint win there. How did it feel in the cockpit? I mean, was that the way you expected it to unfold if Oscar stayed in front? Wait till the end for the swap?
I mean, you can never plan exactly what lap, what time, it's impossible to plan these things to perfection. We talk about different times when we can manage things to do, and the main thing we want to do is not put anyone at risk, myself or Oscar, and we want to help each other out. So we executed it in the end exactly how we wanted to.
But did you feel under risk from Charles? Because obviously they had DRS behind you for a while.
You're the best.
Yeah, no, of course I was under pressure. They were within DRS almost every lap. Max was a lot quicker at the end of the race, so yeah, my confidence was not high towards the middle end part of the race. But that's life. Oscar drove well, and he deserved the win today. I'm not proud of winning a sprint race or any race like this. So I thank Oscar and the team. But that's our objective. It's what we have to work towards as a team. We get the points in the constructor, and I get the points in the drivers, and that's our target.
To be honest, with the driver hat on, I get it. You know, him delaying as much as possible, I get it, and I imagine you would have done the same. What about Max's pace? You mentioned it there. Bit of a surprise how quick he was towards the end?
I think so. I mean, I felt very quick the whole race, so I felt like once I was released, I could easily go. But at the same time, the last couple laps, I knew Oscar would need the DRS, and I had to back off a little bit to help him out. So he helped me, I helped him. I know I was the one which benefited in the end of the day, but this is the position we're in for a championship now.
And we got qualifying coming up. Obviously, yesterday you guys were very quick, over one lap. Any reason to think it could be different today?
Yeah, the rain.
You think it's coming?
Yes.
You're handy in the wet, you'll be fine.
Yeah, but we're very quick and dry at the minute, so I would prefer if it would stay dry.
All right, good luck for the afternoon. Thank you.
Yeah, well, that is the point, because the forecast tomorrow, where it's said at one point, was 60%, Bernie? Because I know you keep across your radars. You've got a good radar.
I always have an eye on the radar, Simon, but I think as well he means this afternoon there is a risk of rain for the qualifying session this afternoon. It was running around 40%, and when it rains here, it properly rains generally, so it'll be an all or nothing situation. McLaren were caught foul of that last year by not running early enough in the Q3 session, so big call this year to try and get that right.
I remember the year off the top of my head, but Max's drive in the wet here when he came all the way through the field in 2016. There you go, thank you very much, that was in my ear. But yeah, I mean, that was a brilliant drive. I mean, that for the viewers at home, to see that, we got to see that tomorrow, a Norris Verstappen battle in the wet, that could be epic, couldn't it?
It could be really epic. You know, the rain is always what we call an equalizer to some sort of performance of the car, so that could be the one element that does bring everything even closer. And we know that when it rains, Max, you know, really does take a step ahead. It's, you know, when the boys and the men get separated.
Yeah, too right.
I can't bear watching in the wet. It's too nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it is. All right. Okay, in that case, let's move on and hear from Pierre Gasly. You set mediums and finished in the points in 7th.
Job from you today. How tough was it hanging on to those 2 points at the end?
Yeah, it was very tough. I must say we struggled more with the tires than I thought. We knew that there was an opportunity today, and yeah, initially it was quite fast. As I could see George not too far ahead, and then I started to struggle a lot with the fronts. And then after that, yeah, I could see Checo also coming back through the field, but very happy we managed to hang on and finish ahead of Checo and top of the midfield. So important 2 points for us. Now we need another 2 more points compared to Williams before the end of the year, but I'm glad to see we're back in the fight.
Good job. Thank you. Thanks.
Obviously, the car's improved a little bit, but he's driving a lot better than Esteban Ocon at the moment, like a real team leader, which he'll want to be next year.
Yeah, the strange thing is when they brought that upgrade to Austin, obviously Esteban didn't have it then, but since Mexico, you know, Perez just had maybe 1 weekend more with this new update, but he's unleashing a lot more out of that car than Esteban is, which is strange because usually we've seen the two of them very evenly paired.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's now where they're starting to develop in a direction that maybe suits Pierre more because they know that Esteban's leaving ultimately.
That could be really true, I think, from what Naomi's saying there, and it is good to see that they will be encouraged by that. position today for Gasly at the end.
Yeah, you lose a bit of traction if you're going somewhere else at the end of the season. So within the engineering group, and is what you said. And also, you don't even bother saying anything. You think, well, it's not going to benefit me in the next year anyway. So why do I bother helping them?
All right, let's finish by listening to the two Mercedes drivers. Lewis Hamilton finished where he started in 11th, and the same can be said for George Russell in 6th.
Was that sprint as you expected in the end from what you've seen from the pace so far this weekend? And what can you change between now and quali that might give you hope that you can have a better race tomorrow?
Exactly as we expected. We think we are almost bang on between the top 4 or 5 cars and the next group. So, that's just how it is at the moment.
You had an Alpine on your tail. Were you surprised to see an Alpine keeping close to you?
No, not at the beginning. They're often most cars in the midfield. They're pushing very hard in the beginning to keep them with the DRS. I think we finished the race 6 seconds behind Carlos, 6 seconds ahead of Gasly. That's exactly what we thought would happen before the race. So, we need to keep on trying to improve, but we're not going to make a pole position race-winning car from now until qualifying Saturday.
Talk about how bumpy it was yesterday, and then it sounded like you had a seat issue in the car today. Was that a pretty horrible 24 laps for you today?
Yeah, probably one of the worst of the year. The car was all over the place. It was a real struggle. Our car does not like this track. But at least we have time now to make some changes going into qualifying, and we definitely can't make it worse.
Yeah, look, I mean, I wonder, there's almost an air of resignation, isn't there, within that Mercedes team at the moment. They are nailed on for finishing 4th in the Constructors. Damon Lewis is off at the end of the season. They'll keep on racing for as best a position as they can, but it feels to me like everything is geared towards next year, and their heads are almost there already.
There was that little bit of hope, wasn't there, in the mid-season where they changed their front wing design, and they thought they discovered something. They thought they were going to grow and go forward, and they showed some pace occasionally, but they're back where they started. They got this fickle car that doesn't respond in the way they want it. They can't predict when it's going to be good, so it must be very difficult for them.
They sounded, I was listening to 13 radio during that sprint, and both of them sounded really unhappy, Lewis in particular with the car, but George as well struggling a lot throughout the race. I think something sort of clicked from an engineering point towards the end of the race. I think they made some changes from a steering wheel switch position in order to slightly tweak the setup of the car that meant he could go faster towards the end, but there was a bit in the middle where both drivers were really struggling to get there on top of that Mercedes.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it yesterday, didn't we, following sprint qualifying, the fact that Lewis was referencing Baku in 2022 and a similar sort of feeling where he was actually in pain driving the car, and they had to make a couple of adjustments. I mean, it's almost like, one step forward, one step back, isn't it?
Although I think that's probably a little bit more track related than the actual car problem. The bumps on the track are exposing the fact that they have to run their car lower and therefore bottoming out and hurting his back. But yeah, it's just been a struggle for them, and you can feel that the energy is just, they're a little bit deflated. There's been a lot of ebbs and flows in the season with this off the track development war, and at the moment Ferrari is on the up and Mercedes is on the down, and in a cost cap era it's normal that they're not all bringing the same size upgrades all the time. And unfortunately for them, it's just not going to be the happiest end to the season.
Okay, let's throw it forward to qualifying then. Do we think it's going to be similar to yesterday's sprint qualifying?
There's a lot more at stake, and they know a little bit about what to expect from their car, and they know a little bit of what to expect from the competition as well. So we'll be very interested to see what they've done, what they've put their thinking caps on and come up with. All the cars up and down the grid.
Yeah, Bernie, can they make the change, as we said, from sprint qualifying to actual qualifying?
I think Mercedes will have a good look through that data. They'll make some changes pretty quickly going into qualifying this afternoon. I think Lewis Hamilton has an extra soft compared to some others, but judging by his qualifying performance yesterday, he wouldn't have got the opportunity to use that. So.
Well, obviously they can make the changes. Parc Fermé's open, and there would have been lots of learning. With only one free practice every session you're out there now, whether it's a sprint race or sprint qualifying, you're still learning. So they will absolutely all be making changes.
3 hours between the sessions, and